Hey, hello to all. Thank you for connecting with us today in the show in Believe in Yourself, Believe in Your Business. We have DJ Horton, and I am really happy because she has very good things to share about her life, the thing that she has been learning from, and really also understand how the advantages to aging and to have the right mindset to grow in your life is key to have the enthusiasm to be like happy really with what is happening in your life and what is coming. Sometimes we are thinking like, no, I am aging, so I have to be like depressed or something because I am not exactly the right person, or I am not reaching all the goals that I was looking for when I was young. But this time we are going to be talking a little bit about all the things that Debbie has been learning in her life. So thank you, Debbie, for connecting with us and bringing your wisdom to us.
Oh, thank you for inviting me, Alejandro. I'm very excited about having this discussion.
Yes, so Debbie, the first thing that we always do is really start to connect with who you were, understand from where you came, what were the things that you started to have some struggles in your past, how that started to become like, okay, in what moment you decided like, I need to believe in myself, I start to create something, I am somebody in this world, and I want to work on my mindset in my life to become the person that I want to be. So, who you were before?
So that's always an interesting discussion to have because most people have this story about how, they were beaten down or they didn't believe in themselves. And I was very fortunate in growing up with family members who constantly instilled in me that you can be anything you want to be, especially my grandfather, my dad's father. He would, for as long as I can remember, like before I could even walk, remember sitting on his knee and having him tell me that whatever I wanted to be when I grew up, I could do it. And so that kind of set me on the path of always believing that I could, right? And even though I would try things and, fall down, sometimes literally, sometimes figuratively, I would bounce back rather quickly. I think because he and others really instilled in me that mindset of, it's okay. Failing was not something that was bad. It was something to look forward to. Like you could fail, and as long as you learned something in the process, it made you better. It made your business acumen better. It just helped you to really like get up, dust yourself off, and move forward. So I've been blessed to have that. And even though I am human and I've had many of those downfalls, it doesn't take me too long before I kind of hear him in my head saying, "You can be anything you want to be, just go do it."
And do you remember some of those downfalls that you were thinking like, okay, where is my grandpa to tell me that I can do it? And I want to know if I can really do it or not, because I
Yeah.
know that even if it takes 10 minutes for you, it's 10 minutes that are like bad, like I am feeling that I am not myself, that I can do it again, and what is happening here, and I don't see my grandpa here with me. So how was like some of those moments that you were like with the self-talk that maybe you can't, or self-sabotaging because some things were not working the way that you thought?
Yeah. So, probably about 30 years ago, I ended up having some health challenges, and it left me. And my background has not always been in podcasting and anti-aging, but I I owned an international CPA firm, so very much forums, structure, constantly using that side of your brain for all of the calculations and whatnot. And this illness left me with the not not being able to add, not being able to fill out forms, not being able to remember whether or not I had brushed my teeth 5 minutes before. And I mean, that that was pretty debilitating, not just because of the health challenge, but also the mind challenge as well, where I had to rely on my then 8-year-old and 16-year-old children to take care of me because I could not take care of myself. And talk about being in a in a bad mindset and being depressed. But I was able to remember not just my grandfather's words, but I always did. Every year I would do a vision board. I used affirmations all the time, and I could read, like, that part of my brain was still functioning very well, but when I'd read those affirmations, it was like, I can't even remember if I brushed my teeth, how am I ever supposed to, travel again or do this or do that? So I changed my affirmations that addressed where I was right then and there. So I started with affirmations like, I am perfectly healthy. I can remember how to take care of myself. I remember how to take care of my children. I remember how to work. I remember, and so I would break down all these things that I was feeling frustrated about and condition my mind that to remember that I am capable. I am totally capable. We just have to reroute a few things.
And how much time did you take? Because I believe that this is really powerful what you are sharing right now. Because sometimes we are like, the problem of doing those type of affirmations is that myself is even telling me you are lying, you are lying, you are all those things
I
that
know.
you
I
are
know,
lying.
right?
That's
And
not you.
I went through that. I totally could relate to that. I totally it was probably 9 months of really feeling badly before I remembered about the affirmations. And so I started with just a handful because, yes, I would get frustrated. I would read that I was fully capable of taking care of myself, and inside my head would be going like, "You can't even get dressed by yourself anymore. Like, what are you talking about?" And so it took some. Actually, it was a good friend of mine that reminded me that I taught her how to use affirmations, and the fact is that when just reading an affirmation isn't really going to help that much. I mean, it'll help a little bit, but when you read them with feeling, like taking the time to say, okay, let me remember what it's like to be healthy and let that feeling sink in and then do your affirmation with that feeling. And so it it took me a while to kind of get that back again to shut the negative part of the brain off and say like be quiet. Like let's just go with this. And it was maybe like 3 months and I was back to being able to take care of myself. I still struggled though with forms and with numbers, and that probably took like another 2 or 3 months before I really had that back. But that was my bread and butter. So I transitioned for that time period into I wrote a book called The Emerging Leaders, and all about becoming a better version of yourself, as well as how to be able to utilize that same information not just in your personal life but also in your business. And so I kind of believe that everything that we go through is an opportunity to do better in your life.
And I really like that. And I am going to go deeper because I know that there is a lot of power on this. And really what you are talking about is really key. When you have these affirmations, and maybe at the beginning it's because Debbie is telling you do it, or maybe Alejandro is telling you do it, you start to have this self talk that is telling you that is not true and those type of things. And maybe you have the tenacity to do it like for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, like I do it even when I don't believe it. So when you start to feel that that belief starts to change inside of you, what do you remember that helps you in that affirmation? Like at the beginning you are not believing it even when you are saying it, and suddenly there is a shift that you start like, oh, I start to see it even when I don't see it now physically, I start to see it in another point of view. And I always say that, everything is created twice. The first one is in your mind, and second is you see it in front of you. So that's why for me this is key, because what you are saying is the affirmation is you start to see it in your mind, you start to work on that, start to like nurture that idea until
Mhm.
suddenly start to happen in front of you. And you are talking about some issues that physically were like a problem with you. So how you move from that point to maybe you are 3 meters in front of the goal and you want to give up, and it's like, okay, what is a signal that you are almost there for you?
So I don't think we're ever really there. We should always be growing. And the brain is really an interesting thing. Did you know that your brain doesn't know the difference between something that's real and something that's imagined with feeling? So there's a part of your brain that actually helps to keep you like you. And so the trick is, if you want to improve or change, the trick is to make your brain believe that you already are that. And so taking the time to not just do the affirmations, but to spend the time in the feeling of, okay, I've accomplished this. What does it feel like? What does my life look like? What you're doing is creating, if you're old enough to remember videotapes, ca- picture, going into a video store, like the DVDs or the CDs, and you're looking at what movie you want to watch, right? And your brain will say, "Oh, we've watched that one. We like that. Let's find something similar to that." We don't want to necessarily watch that again, but we want something this that's similar. So every time you do your affirmations, you visualize, you really feel the feeling of having accomplished it. What you're doing is you're creating that DVD, that videotape. And so then when you have a choice to make, to go, sit on the couch and feel sorry for yourself because you couldn't quite do something the way that you expected you'd be able to, or do it anyways.
Mm.
Your brain goes to that library of tapes of those DVDs and says, okay, what does DJ look like? What are we going to do to respond to this so that she continues to be like her? And now I have that one videotape where I go sit on the couch and I get all depressed. And then I have 10 of these videotapes where I see myself as successful and feel the feeling. And so the brain goes like, there's one of those, there's 10 of these. Oh, this is the way she is. And so you automatically start acting the way you want to be. And what happens too often is that people spend more time in the, oh, well, I'm the person who sits on the couch and feels sorry for themselves and watches TV all day. And so you're duplicating that tape instead of the way you want to be. And so the trick is to fill your mind with those tapes of you doing the thing, feeling the fear, and doing it anyways. Because then your brain's going to say, nope, this is the person that you are. Let's move forward.
And I want to go in one of the topics that you are saying, because I know that the answer is exactly there. You are talking about feeling the feeling and understanding what is happening. So for me, that is key. And I want to ask you, because I know that you are going to understand me. You were a CPA. That means that you were always in your mind with the all the numbers and everything. So when you are in your mind, like trying to be a person that feels is not possible. So
But it
I
is possible. It's a learning experience when you fail
and
or
that
feel.
but that exactly what I want to ask you, because I know that you have been like in a process that I feel, because my grandpa was saying me that all the time, and I feel that I can make it, and I feel that all the things, to suddenly become a CPA, and you were like so involved in your head and all the statistics and all the numbers that you need to do in order to fulfill and feel that business. to once again start to feel again. And that's exactly what is happening to you right now. You are feeling again. So what do you recommend to people that is in their head and they want to start to feel,
Mhm.
to start to really see all the things? Because exactly what you are saying, the affirmations. If you ask me, in my point of view, the moment that you know that you are 3 meters out of the goal and you are very near, even when you have been working 100 meters, like looking and looking and nothing is working, when you see, when you start to feel like this is happening now, I feel it, that it's something is happening, the air change. I don't see it yet physically, but I start to feel it like very deep. That means that you are 3 meters out of that goal. And that's why for me, talking about understanding how to feel, it's really key, because it's going to accelerate all the visualization and all the process. So, what do you recommend to those people that is like in their head, trying to have everything done in their head first, and it's like, no, but it's not working. Yeah, because it's in you're in your head. How to
Right.
move your head to your feelings?
You gotta marry your head and your heart, and that's when you'll really be successful. There's some great, personal development books that really get into the nerdy part of that whole factor. There's a book that I've reread it several times, over the last few years. It's called, um, The Happiness Advantage by Shawn Achor, and it talks about happiness, which is a feeling, right? And everybody believes that once I'm successful, I'll be happy. But the reality is that when you're happy is when you'll be successful. So
Mm,
think about that, right? How many people do you know that are like super successful, mega rich, and they're miserable?
mm,
Because they believed that when they had the next thing, then they'd find happiness. But in the process, they destroyed their marriage, they alienated their kids and the rest of their family and their friends. And so it's really about understanding the need to be happy with where you are, knowing that it's going to help you to get further. And Sean goes into the whole psychological um, helps to really take you from that, okay, I'm in my head, I like, give me proof, give me proof, give me proof. And he, studied at Harvard and has all these different degrees. And there's this whole science behind positive thinking. And so he kind of like helps you to make that shift. That's a great book. But there's a lot of things that and you were talking about, how you feel like you're 3 meters away from the goal. Oftentimes, the people with the negative mindset could be 1 meter away from the goal, and they'll give up because they don't feel it's possible, right? So it's really about helping to take the time to help you to marry your heart and your head. That's when you're gonna be successful. That's when you can really feel what you're achieving or what you're going for and bringing people along with you. So it's not just a soul journey. It's about, especially if you have a family, right? You don't want to prove to them that you can do all of these things. You want to include them in that vision because it's going to like it's it's going to help them to understand maybe why you're working harder than you usually are and you may be seeing them a little bit less, but if they see themselves in the outcome, in what the goal is for you to achieve those things, they can help you be happy with that. To give you an example, I have a team member who has 3 young kids. I mean, they range in age from 3 to 8, and she was working her Neora business with me, and she knew she was going to have to. This was pre-COVID, so we were actually going into people's homes and doing parties and things. And so she was out of the house 3 or 4 nights every single week, and she was starting to feel guilty, as most moms do when they spend too much time away from the kids. But I encouraged her to really include them in making her goals and include them in the vision and doing a family vision party. And so they had all these visions of going to Disney and all this kind of stuff. And so when it got to the point where she was starting to feel guilty again because she was going out for the third night in a row and she started to apologize, her little one said, "Mama, go get them because Disney is right around the corner." Because they were keeping track. Because they were involved in like when mom can do this, then it's going to allow us to all go to Disney and be able to stay in Disney, and they had picked out the whole thing, and so the more people you can involve in creating those feelings and creating that vision, the more successful you're going to be.
Wow, I love it. Uh, and okay, let's go to the next part. Okay, we are talking part of that is exactly like start to believe in yourself. You believe in yourself when you start to feel really what is happening. And even if it's a negative emotion, you feel it and you start to work to that to start to become a positive one. You are doing all this mindset work that you are doing the affirmations, even when you don't feel it at the beginning, but suddenly you start to feel it. So, from that point of view, how what are the advantages to aging and this part that you are working now? That it's what is your why behind that, and how you are helping people to see the value of aging? And I know that you are saying you age even when you are 20 years old, or even if you are 15 years old. Sometimes when we see this title, it's like, yeah, that's for the 80s and 90s, people, but it's not exactly. Everybody is aging. So what is happening with that?
That's so true, Alejandro. So if you wake up tomorrow, you've aged. And I don't care what age you are at this very moment, even a minute from now, you'll have aged. And people are so quick to talk about the disadvantages, the aches, the pains, the slowing down, the blah, 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 not being able to hit your goals. And it can oftentimes people will go down that negative self-talk path because, well, I hit 60 and my father didn't live to 60 and I'm doomed. I'm going to die pretty soon. And so people have that negative mindset. But the reality is, how long ago was it that your dad died? How far has technology and medicine come? And you only have some of his genes, not all of his genes. Like you are not a carbon copy, even if you look very much like him. You you want to use that positive mindset because there are so many advantages to aging that far outweigh the disadvantages. And what I'm really passionate about is helping make people better. And so if you have all kinds of great experiences and you help people to really examine their mindset, you should be sharing that information with others. And now that becomes their advantage because you've imparted that wisdom, and maybe they start doing their affirmations with feeling in their 20s. And so now they're so much better off than if they waited and maybe never started it or didn't start it until they hit their 50s or 60s. So the reality is, the longer you are here on this earth, the more experience you have, the more you share that with others, you not only learn more lessons from the sharing, but you also gain their perspective as well. Because you and I have had a couple of conversations, and I always leave the conversation going, that's really interesting. I didn't look at it that way. Let me just kind of think about that a little bit. And how could I maybe incorporate that into something else that I'm doing? And so I encourage everyone to find all of the advantages that they've had in their life. And I don't care where you are, you can be homeless. There are some somewhere in your life. And if you can find those, not only focus on them, but share them and encourage others, you're well on your way to hitting all of your goals because you're shifting that mindset into something much more positive.
Awesome, awesome. And what do you say more like, because I want to go deeper on that. What are the other things that you can say if you are thinking that you are worthless, that you can't do it anymore, that you have tried everything and you can continue doing this job. And of course, we see you and me, we can see that they are like 1 meter out of exactly that thing that they were looking for. But what are the things that you can be telling them to be like, okay, take the courage and really continue because we are here with you. We believe in you. And really, what I see, even in your story that you were telling, is like at the beginning when you were a child, maybe you were not believing in yourself, but the good thing that you had and the thing that you were sharing here, like you have your grandpa saying, I believe in you. I know that you are going to do it, even if you don't know it. And that's something that is important because sometimes it's like I don't really believe in myself anymore because nothing is working. I have been trying every day like for years and nothing is working. And do you know what could be working? Like somebody like us is believing in you.
Right.
So how that works and how you can give that message of hope to those people that is like, no, today is the last day. I'm not going to continue with this dream anymore because nothing is working.
Yeah. Sometimes you can get really low when you don't believe in yourself, right? But there's always someone around you, usually more than just one, that believe in you. And sometimes you have to borrow their belief. Just like my grandfather's belief that I could do anything that I wanted, there were times when I didn't believe him. He was my grandpa. Of course, I would believe him. And so allowing the thought process to be, well, what if he's right? What if I can do anything I put my mind to? What would that look like? And so sometimes you have to borrow other people's belief. The other thing that I found really, really helpful and super, super strong is at the end of each day, find three things that day that happened that you can be grateful for. And maybe it's just that I woke up, I was able to have something to eat. And I don't care whether or not it's, you know, something that was from a fine dining restaurant or you went to the soup kitchen and you got a hot meal. And, it was nice weather out. Those will eventually turn into, hey, you know what? I might not be 100% well, but there are so many people in this world that are suffering more than I am. And maybe I can help them. Maybe I can do some little act of kindness that's going to turn someone else's day around. And you know what? When you do things like that, it turns your day around too. There's so many different things that you can do. It's just a matter of starting somewhere, and maybe three things to be grateful for today is a little too much, but find one. You can totally find one. And if you find three things to be grateful for every day for 30 days, you actually will start to impact your brain because if you train your brain to constantly look for bad, that's exactly what it's going to always find. But if you start to train it to look for things that are good, you're going to suddenly find yourself halfway through the morning and go, "Oh, I already have one thing to be grateful for. I'm going to write that down." And then you'll start noticing more and more and more of them. And to give you a great example of that, my late husband was not necessarily the most positive person in private. In public, everybody thought he was absolutely amazing, never had a care in the world. And but the reality was that he could be very, very negative. And I challenged him to do that, find three things to be grateful for. And I knew 30 days was probably going to be too much of a stretch for him. So I said, how about we just do it for 2 weeks? So before I allowed him to turn the light off to go to sleep at night, he had to give me three things he was grateful for. And the caveat was that, but and gave me a negative, he had to give me 2 more positives to make up for that negative. So, like, he couldn't say, "Well, it was a nice day, but it rained in the afternoon." Nope, gotta give me 2 more. So after 2 weeks of doing that, the next night, I turn off the light, he turns it right back on and said, "Excuse me, where's your 3 gratitudes?" So it had become a little thing to for the 2 of us to share each night, and then about 4 months later, not even 4 months later, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And if we hadn't gone through that exercise, I think he would have given up right then and there. But instead, he said, well, every day I'm still here with you, and the family and the community is a good day. And so he was diagnosed in July. He passed away the following March. But even even in the moment where we were getting the most devastating news that there was no more treatments, there was nothing more that could be done, there was this young woman that was rolled past us in the hospital, and she was in excruciating pain, and she was probably in her 30s. She was probably not much more than 35. And knowing that we were going to get that news, he reached over and held my hand and said, "There, but for the grace of God, go I. There is always, always someone who's worse off than you are. And I have had a good, long life. And if I can spend the rest of it with you and the family, I will die a happy man."
Wow, that's huge. And I will add maybe because I love what you are sharing here, and really that is a way to really start to shift your mind. And this example for me is key to what we have been talking during the whole program. The only way that you can start to elevate a little bit yourself, your positivity, and to start to see things better is start to do this little step. Think about the gratitude, three things that you are grateful about the day. And I will add something that my one of my mentors always says, that is, what you write, you invite.
Oh, I
So
like that.
writing in a paper, those three things are going to start to invite to exactly what you really want in your life.
Yes.
So, Debbie, that is huge, really. And I know that people that is listening to this are going to start to relate. Yeah, my day was bad because of this, and this, but no, I am going to start to focus on the good things. And even if you start with one thing, as you were saying, the next day you will have two, and the next day you will have three, and suddenly you will have 100 things to be grateful. And that is awesome, because that means that you are changing the behavior that you have inside of your head. Instead of attracting the bad things, you are attracting the good things. So what you write, you invite. So start to write those three things that you really are grateful about during your day, and everything is going to start to change. So it was amazing. Debbie, quick question. What is one thing that you want to share to people? Well, first, tell us how we can connect with you. What are the ways that, if they want to reach you and know more about you or anything, how are the ways?
Absolutely. So, I actually have a website, Advantages to Aging. There's the way that it's spelled here after my name, only all put together. So, advantagestaging.com. And I also have a podcast, Advantages to Aging, which you can find on almost every single platform that you can imagine. And you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Just search for either DJ Horton or Advantages to Aging, and you'll get there. I love hearing from people what their thoughts are, what some of their challenges are. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. And what is like maybe the last thought that you want to say to people that is listening to us, that has spent the last 35 minutes with us? One thing that it's like, okay, if you didn't hear anything, this is the only thing that I want you to keep and maintain.
So the one thing that I would say is I believe in you. You can do anything. You set your mind to.
Awesome. And I believe also in you. So that's why we are having this program, and that's why we are connecting and bringing amazing people to be with you every week, every time that I can, and really finding amazing people like Debbie that is ready to share her wisdom and that is ready to help more people. I know that right now the world is full of bad news, but really we need to start to focus on the good news. And that's why we are here. Believe in yourself, believe in your business. Thank you very much for connecting with us. Debbie, it was amazing. You brought a lot of insights that I absolutely love. It was amazing. Thank you,
I
everyone,
so appreciate it.
and see you later. See you, Debbie.
I know.